another Michigan Girls Hoops podcast presented by Prepare to Win Basketball. Prepare to Win Basketball is dedicated to empowering the Michigan girls basketball community through educational resources, media, and special events that will prepare all to succeed. I am your host today, Terrence Willis. I'm currently an assistant coach at Arbor University, and I also help coach AAU at Michigan Premier Basketball. You'll see our co-host today, Evan Bell. I'll let Evan introduce himself. How you doing, Evan?
Doing great, Coach. Happy to be back. Great to see our podcast following, our Mitten Hoops fans. I'm co-host Evan Bell, lead scout Prep Girls Hoops Michigan, director of Prepare to Win Basketball, and now the Lake Michigan College assistant. So very excited.
Congratulations again. Woo woo.
Let's go.
We're joined by a very special guest today, which we'll introduce here in just a moment. But first, we're excited again to bring you the first ever podcast of its kind that we know of, at least, the MGH podcast. This podcast, we very intentionally talk only about girls basketball, specifically its players, its programs, its coaches, showcases, and various AAU recruiting services. We intend only to use this platform as a positive, uplifting, helpful, informative platform where we can share thoughts and opinions as it pertains to girls basketball in the beautiful state of Michigan. For all of our listeners and viewers, there's a ton of topics that we could cover. We're not going to be able to cover them all. There's a lot of people we can interview, and so we're excited about that opportunity. If you ever have a question or a topic that you'd like for us to discuss, I will have a small segment in every podcast, including this one, called Friends of the Pod, where we'll attempt to answer some of your thoughts or questions, or we'll have our guests attempt to answer some thoughts or questions that were sent in. You can always email those thoughts or questions to us at mghpodcasting@gmail.com. And that link will also be listed for you below. And this is any of our listeners. It doesn't have to be a player or a parent all the time. Even a coach who might have a thought or an idea, shoot those things over to us. Evan and I read that email every day and kind of go from there. I'm super excited to introduce this guest. I can't tell you how excited I've been. I reached out, I called, had a great conversation with her, and I am so excited to introduce this guest that we have today. The resume is incredible. So I'm going to make this so big because it is. We have with us today former player at American University, 2009 graduate. She went on to receive her master's from the University of Cincinnati, has an extensive coaching resume where she's had stops at programs as an assistant, such as University of Cincy, College of the Holy Cross, BGSU, Manhattan College, and Miami. Recently, she was the head coach at Canisius University, where she took over in 21-22 season, and in just 3 seasons, flipped that program completely around. That program went from being, I think, a 5-win program 2 seasons before she arrived, and then the COVID season happened, and didn't win any games. But prior to her coming on, was struggling a little bit, and then before she left, they had their first winning season ever in 15 years. She's currently the new head coach at Eastern Michigan, fresh off an Olympics trips to Paris, and has the state of Michigan buzzing and its coaches and players. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Sahar Nusseibeh, and make sure I pronounced that correctly.
You pronounced it great. Thank you so much for having me, Coach Terrence and Coach Evan. It's an honor to be here. When you called and asked, I was so excited. So I'm really looking forward to it. And before we even get started, I think what you're doing is tremendous. I think creating a platform for girls sports in Michigan, especially girls basketball, women's basketball, I think it's phenomenal. And I appreciate the good work that both of you gentlemen are doing.
We're trying.
Thanks, Coach.
We're trying. Coach, talk to us a little bit. So, again, super excited to have you. That resume is extensive. I mean, that is a heck of an intro. I mean, all the places you've been, the success you've had. Talk to us a little bit about what motivated you to be, coming from being from Uniontown, Ohio. It's not a huge place in Ohio, to playing basketball at the level you did, and then transitioning into a college basketball coach. What was that motivation like? How's that experience been for you?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I will be the first to tell you, you cannot get anywhere without the help of others. And the first person in my life who really lit a fire in me with basketball was my high school coach, Paul Wackerly at North Canton Hoover. I transferred into that school my junior year, and he was just an incredible motivator. And he's someone who would run through 5 brick walls for us. And it was such a powerful thing to witness and experience as a player, and just the role he had in terms of his impact on me. Incredible. And it's why I wanted to get into coaching. I wanted to be someone like that for other young people. I just admire him so much in the work he's done with so many young people. And not to get too deep too early, but I believe we're all put on this earth for a reason, and influence and positive impact are so important. And I feel like coaching is the vehicle that I can do that best. And so I'll give a lot of props to my high school coach. He really lit the fire in me. My college coaching staff showed me that basketball is more than just being a great motivator. That's where I really learned the game a little bit better. And then just my experiences through internships with different WNBA organizations, and just, as you mentioned, working my way up to the position I'm in today. I learned so much from just various mentors. The bosses that I had previously taught me so much, whether it be emotional intelligence, how to connect best with different players, X's and O's, scout preparation, the importance of intentional recruiting, not just recruiting, not just calling to make calls, but what do you want out of it? How do we make it purposeful? How do we create true connection? So every step along the way, coach, I've had people just help elevate me and teach me and show me the way.
That's fantastic. Wow. I actually didn't know that you went through the WNBA ranks a little bit there too. That's an exciting little tidbit of information.
It was really neat. I was an intern, not to talk too much about that, but I was an intern for the Mystics going into my junior season, and that was because of my college coach. She knew I wanted to get into coaching, and she kind of set that up for me. And I really connected with one of the assistants. The following season, that assistant got the head job for the Atlanta Dream. And
Oh,
so she actually paid for my housing. Summer going into my senior year, I was a part of the Atlanta Dream organization. And because it was in their inaugural season, she walked into our office of, interns one day, and she's like, "We need a video coordinator. Who's willing to step up?" And my hand shot up so quick. I said, "I have no idea what I'd be doing, but I'm in, coach. I got you." And so it's kind of wild. I was the video coordinator for the Atlanta Dream, their inaugural season, as a
that
college
is
student.
that is sweet. How was that learning curve?
I sat in an office in downtown Atlanta from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning, crying on the phone with, I'm trying to even think of the software at the time. It was Exo's software. Like, I had deleted clips and I was trying to figure it out. So I'm on the hotline with the tech guys for the software, and because I
Oh,
had to get the clips ready for the staff. And it was very hard, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I loved it.
geez. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's great information to know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
and
sharing
that's
your heart with us, Coach. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was just saying, it's just saying yes to things. I think, obviously you have a podcast for young people, and you all know the value of saying yes to things, even if you're not ready.
Mhm.
Who wants to be a video coordinator? I don't know, but I'm gonna try, so
Right.
just the value of being willing to say yes.
It's good.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great advice there, Coach. As you mentioned, like your heart for coaching and just inspiring young ladies, and just being there for them, working hard, preparing to be successful, and being willing to volunteer. Like, so it's cool to see kind of your story and kind of how you've reached this point. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
so we know you recently coached at Canisius. What were some of your highlights from that experience? Again, I touched on a little bit the program changing, but you can give me all the details. You were there. You had to go through that experience. First time head coach. and the MAAC. Evan and I were laughing a little bit about the difference between the MAC and the MAG. So
Yeah, a long
tell us a
A or
little
a
bit.
short A.
Tell us a little bit about that experience there, Canisius.
Oh, it was a phenomenal experience. And I'll share a couple great moments, and then I'll give you what the most beautiful thing about that 3 years was.
Okay.
Our first season, so I got the job really late, end of July, which recruiting's done. I mean, I had who I had in terms of the roster. We had 11 girls. We were rocking with 11. One of them is actually one of my newest assistants, so that worked out pretty well for me. And we were not the most talented bunch. We weren't the most deep, we didn't have the size. But every single day we got better. And that was one of the coolest years I could have ever experienced. Just having a team where it wasn't reflected in the results, but you would walk into that gym in March and we had a whatever, 7 and whatever record, 6 and whatever record. And you would have thought the record was flipped with how hard they worked, how bought in they were, their energy. And one of the greatest moments that sticks out to me, that really told me that we were successful in that first year, because that first year is about believing. It's not about a 30-win season, right? There's a lot out of your control in that first year, but it's about who's believing in, is your locker room bought in. And we went to the MAC tournament out in Atlantic City, and we were the 11 seed playing Monmouth, the 6 seed. And before the game, I walked out and our women were huddled before the court and they were breathing together. And that's something I like our team to do because it puts us on one accord. And I looked at the staff of 2 assistants that I had at the time and I said, they're believed in, they believe they can do this. And so we walked, onto the court and we beat them. So
Really?
it was the first
Nice.
11-6 upset ever in the tournament. And the locker room was amazing. And it was just the most incredible thing to see persistence and buy-in from that group of women. So that was a moment that sticks out. There were a couple other great moments, beating UB Buffalo in the season opener in year 2. That was a big moment. And then this last year, there were so many great moments. We had a 5-game road stretch where we just won. And every day it was like we win, we get ice cream. That's our thing. So we were fat and happy on ice cream in our non-conference, and that just gave us really good momentum to get into the conference. And one really cool moment was we beat Manhattan to go to the semifinals of the conference tournament, and we were 0 for 2 in the regular season, both 3-point losses.
Close
And
games.
very close games. We beat them. It was another close game in the tournament, and goes to show you how incredible my former boss is. We beat them to end their season. Our girls are excited. As soon as the game ends, the 2 coaches are coming together, and this woman is smiling and saying, "I love you. I'm proud of you." And her team has just lost the season, and that's just character of who she is.
Wow.
But personally, that's a moment I don't think I'll ever forget. And that's so important to me because it just reemphasizes how important good people are in your life. And she's someone who's a really good person in my life, and she's helped me get to where I am today. But even the team, the locker room, those are the memories that you remember. The water being sprayed everywhere, the singing, all of that type of stuff. We had some great times at Canisius.
That's what all that hard work is all about.
That's it. Those moments it's worth all of it.
Yeah, I think you had a player that Evan knows pretty well from the Brighton area at Canisius, right, Evan?
Yeah, so when I first got into the girls side of basketball, I was a freshman girls head coach at Howell, and then I was kind of like an assistant scout to our head assistant at Howell. And so I had the unfortunate task of trying to figure out, how are we gonna prioritize Mary Koppel. She's kind of a local legend in the KLA West. So she was a junior at the time, but she was just a scoring champion, just extreme range, lights out shooter, great ball handler, dishes dimes with both hands, good footwork on her finishing. And so it's like, so we kind of had a game plan, like, how do we take her away? And she was just a problem for defenses. So I saw that she went to Kinesis, was a freshman last year. And so she's somebody that I really, enjoyed watching play the game, and saw that, you had her on your team.
Yeah, Mary is a great story. So I saw Mary when I was at Miami of Ohio.
Okay.
I think going into my last year there, I saw her, and I'm in, I forget where I was, Kentucky or whatever big expo in July, and I'm walking, and I'm supposed to be at this one court, and out of the corner of my eye, I'm a periphery recruiter too. As I'm walking, I'm like, what's going on over here? Mary got the outlet. It was after a make. She brings the ball up with pace. No one's guarding her, and she just pulls up from three, and it's splash, nothing. And so I stop, and I'm like, you know what, that court can wait. Let me just stand here and watch this girl a little bit. And she was really good. Everything you just said, Coach Evan, that's who she is as a player. So really talented. And I kept note of her, and we talked to her a little bit at Miami. And then when I got the Canisius job, she's one of the first names I talked about to our staff. I'm like, she could be a great point guard option for us. And the staff watched film. We watched her again that following July, and we were all in with her. I mean, in terms of not just the talent, but the work ethic, that girl is in a gym. You got to pull her out. You know what I mean? It's like, Mary, you gotta sleep. Like, let's go to bed. But in terms of just a young person who wants it so much and is willing to do whatever it takes, she's an absolute winner. And I'm really excited for her. I think she's going to have a phenomenal career at Canisius as she finishes up. I'm excited to follow from afar now and just be a fan, but she's a tremendous player and an even better person.
That's really cool to hear, because, as an opposing coach, we see the side of her on the court, but hearing actually the process of how you found her on a periphery court, and then what attracted you to her as far as a prospect, and then her work ethic in the gym. Like, those are great things for kids in our state to hear about what makes a kid successful.
100%. And Mary is just the gold standard, if I'm being quite honest. As a freshman, she led in our how in terms of the work required, time with the coaches, time on your own, a commitment to your conditioning, taking care of your body. She was so mature in understanding all the pieces that go into performance and sacrificing for that, and just being extremely disciplined. I don't know if I've had a first year student athlete quite like Mary. She just gets it. And yes, any aspiring college student athlete, she's definitely someone, if you're comfortable reaching out via social media, she's a nice girl. I don't want to like put her on blast like that. We're all the high school girls in Michigan are reaching out to me.
Sure, her DMs blow up like
on the podcast, Coach.
200 DMs.
Yeah,
Whoa,
we got
what
to tag
happened?
her.
Where are all these follows coming from?
We got to tag her when this goes public, so that everybody can reach out to her.
Sure, for sure. No, she's a good one to study.
I'm gonna change gears and ask a fun question to break it up, because we got all this fun, serious questions out there. So you're from Uniontown, Ohio?
Yes.
Right. Grew up there, born and raised. Uniontown?
Yes. Yep. Northeast Ohio.
The question we always ask in Michigan, you're a Michigan resident now. Is it Buckeyes for you, or is it Wolverines, Spartans? Like, where are we going here?
It's Eagles. It's Eagles. Like, we're not Buckeyes. We're not Wolverines.
I'll accept that answer. I was specifically talking. The state's a little divided when it comes to the Big Ten teams.
I know, and I'm not answering that for a reason.
Terrence. I'll take that. Yeah. I'll give you that. That's a safe answer. That's smart. That's exciting fun. One more fun question. So again, you're fresh off the Olympics. And how I knew you ended up in being Olympics. I have a basketball player in our AAU program, Rhea Hitt, who's 26, and she reached out, and she was, just having a conversation. Her mom reached out to me, was like, hey, sent me a text message, and I'm like, I didn't even know she was in in Paris. I just talked to her like a day and a half ago. So how did that experience go, and what was that like being out there?
Oh my gosh. So I didn't know I was going to be in Paris until, the day of, actually. Crazy story. And this is the power of college teammates and how strong those relationships are. One of my closest friends, who was a college teammate, she's now the general manager of one of the newest WNBA organizations, the Valkyries. And we had a recruit on campus, and I went to the restroom. The recruit was touring, and I come back to a missed call and a text that says, "I have a crazy idea." And I mean, I know she's doing some crazy things. So I called her up and I said, "What's up?" And she said, "This is your shutdown week, right?" And I said, "It's not, but talk to me. Like, what's going on?" And she said, "Well," she's like, "I have a ticket to the quarterfinals tomorrow, the women's basketball quarterfinals." She said, "You would have to fly out tonight." She's like, "Do you think you can make that work?" I said, "Yes." So we're on, like, what is it, Expedia, and like looking up tickets, and they're expensive. And this woman has traveled around the world so many times. She's got a ton of points. Again, beautiful friend, sacrificed for her friend, flew me out. I had a day of quarterfinal basketball. I decided to stay out a few more days. We went to the gold medal soccer match together, got great seats, which is where a lot of people discovered I was in Paris. I guess we made like the NBC broadcast. The camera
Yes.
guy panned to us for a quick second, because during the game my phone started blowing up, and I was like, "What's going on?" But yes, it was incredible, and it's all because of my college teammate and now one of my closest friends. I would not have been in Paris had it not been for her.
Wow.
So
That's exciting.
it was really cool.
Super fun to hear.
Good promo
Yeah.
for you too on NBC. Millions of
Yeah.
viewers. Like, that's legit.
I know. It was
It
really
is.
funny. It was
Oh,
crazy.
so we talked a little bit about what it was your first, or you talked a little bit about your first year coming into in Canisius, and late hire in July is a little different. This summer had to be a little different. What was your summer like this little bit, and maybe some of the things that you and your staff got to look forward to, during going through the process of both transitioning in the EMU, as well as, getting to do some recruiting this summer. How was
Yeah.
that for you?
I'm so grateful of the timeline of this. So my start date was April 1,
Okay.
which gave us time, exactly what you're saying, Coach, gave us time to kind of put a plan together. It allowed me, I brought two assistants from Canisius. So they were a part of everything, and they know how we do things, our recruiting approach. And so it just gave us time, which was beautiful. And the biggest focus for us was building relationships with Michigan. The one thing I learned the first event I went to at Grand Valley State was there's a lot of talent in Michigan. And I'm a proud Ohio girl, so I'll always talk about Ohio girls basketball, and I will not stop talking about that. But hats off, respect. I'm very excited to be coaching college basketball in Michigan because there is so much talent. And I just kept looking, and it was a smaller event, but the number of girls that were talented enough to play at Eastern and that I was excited about, it was insane. And so I came back with all these names that I'm sure every other MAC school knows, or Horizon League, or even, Big Ten school knows. And I'm just going over, and it gave me time to learn these girls, learn their families, get them to campus, start building relationships. The other great thing about spring is we can, as Division I coaches, we can talk to AAU coaches. And so there are certain times in the spring when we can do that. And so it allowed me to connect with different directors. I believe that's when we first connected, Coach Willis, and start talking, and just learning you and your programs and what you all are about and your philosophies, because that matters. And then just being able to share what we're about, because we are new, and so with new comes things that are done differently, and different beliefs. Not that there's a good or a bad to it, but it allowed us kind of the opportunity to share a little bit about who we are and how we want to do things. So I loved the spring and the summer. I love the fact that we had time to build a list, to build relationships, and to get our name out there, but more so to share how we do things, because I think the how is everything.
Yeah, and so Coach, one of our questions we kind of wanted to hear from you as well as, joining Eastern Michigan and bringing kind of your identity from Canisius. You kind of alluded to that a little bit with the breathing and, cohesiveness of your team, but just kind of what are you thinking about as far as like, this is what we're all about and we want Eastern Michigan's women's basketball program to be about as our identity?
Yeah. So I love answering this question. So we are essentially 6 words: feet in, arms out, eyes up. That's Eastern Michigan women's basketball. And I'll break that down a little bit just so you and whoever's tuning in can understand who we are, because these are things that we live out every single day. So feet in is about being 2 feet in, fully committed. We're not 9 toes and 1 pinky dangling. We are 10 toes in, 2 feet in. We are all in. And all in isn't just with what we say, it's with what we do and how we do it. So that's a part of feet in. The other part of feet in is being present, which is a big challenge for young people because it's a big challenge for adults. But working to be fully present in where we are. And that is so important when it comes to the game of basketball, because basketball is such a fast game. You cannot be stuck in what just happened. I can't be stuck in what just happened. As a coach, I lose all control and all power of the present moment when I'm still hung up on something that happened 5 minutes ago. I've got to be in the moment. And if I have to be in the moment, the expectation is that all of us are in the moment, because that's really the only time you ever have full control. And worrying about the future, that's no good either. So it's about being fully present. Arms out is really where my heart is. It's about servant leadership and being willing to reach out when others need help, and being someone who wants to. It's not an obligatory thing. It's not we do our community service and check that box. No, that's not what arms out is. Arms out is just being a person who is constantly seeking ways to add value to others. When I walk into a room, who needs something? How can I help? I want to grow women who are wired like that, because that's leadership. That's servant leadership. And that's one of the most beautiful types of qualities I believe you can have. Arms out is also about vulnerability. We want to create a true sisterhood. So whenever someone on our team is struggling, whether it be a player, a manager, a coach, we feel like we have a safe space where we can reach out to our sister and she's going to reach back and help pull us up. Because that's what family is. Everybody huddles and breaks and says family. We want to live family. Eyes up is the last piece to it. Eyes up is about respect. It's about making people feel seen and heard. So when Coach Willis talks, I'm eyes locked on him. When you talk, Coach Evan, I'm eyes locked on you. I'm making you feel seen and heard. And it doesn't matter whether you're a coach, a player, a manager, an 8-year-old, an 89-year-old. I don't care who you are. Everyone in this world deserves to feel seen and heard. Everybody deserves our respect. And that's something that we teach and we live out. Self-respect is another component to that. And that ties into the last piece, which is presence. I want to develop confident women. I say, and can I kind of curse on this podcast? Or
kind of
bad,
Yeah,
you can be yourself,
Coach. Family friendly, but yeah.
Coach, be yourself.
I want to develop confident badasses.
There you go. Yeah.
Nope.
So
Totally.
that's what I want to develop. I want to develop strong women who, when they leave here and they graduate from Eastern, they know they can conquer anything.
Yeah.
And that even if it's scary, they're going to do it anyway. And they're going to present themselves as confident, because the world needs more confident women. And I believe that's our job, and you two are included in that. As men who coach, as leaders of young women, I feel our job is to develop their confidence so that when that ball stops bouncing, they can enter wherever it is they're entering in terms of workplace and whatever's next for them. They can enter that space confidently and know they've got it.
That's
And
huge.
that's yeah, it is. It's
That is
everything.
huge. And that's one of the reasons why we enjoy coaching, even at the small university we're at, and with the stuff that we're doing with the AAU and Evan and all the coaches. I mean, you talk about meeting our program, but there's a ton of excellent basketball programs in Michigan. You know, not just the program we coach in. There's a lot of programs with a lot of coaches that we have a lot of respect for, not so much just because of what they're doing from a basketball perspective. But I pay attention to the programs that I consider great programs because their kids come back and they either help coach or they reach back out and give back to that program or that coach. That means your impact was bigger than the game of basketball, right? If and we say, you know, if when I'm done coaching, you don't like me, you don't see me, and everyone who knows me, Randy, my assistant coach at Spring Arbor, makes fun of me because I got a handshake with almost every kid in the state of Michigan. It seems like, but if I've coached you and you don't like me when you come back, you might not always like what I have to say in the moment. That's part of being. But generally, if you don't, believe that I care about who you are and help you become a strong young woman, young adult. And when you get older past that forward, then I feel like I haven't done my job as a coach because, to me, coaching is just another form of the profession of teaching. Like you're using the game of basketball as a tool to teach young people how to develop. So I love that. Be in arms out eyes. I might have to borrow that one for a couple of
Yeah.
practices.
I'm gonna re-listen to this pod as soon as we end and just kind of jot down some notes there. Make a
No,
graphic,
seriously,
the whole
that's
9 yards.
absolutely excellent. I want to talk about recruiting a little bit. Because again, we know you spent some time doing that this summer, and you don't have to go overly on it, but I do. I mean, there's a ton of people who always want to know. They ask the questions, what is a coach looking for in a high school prospect, and you got the transfer portal and all this stuff. So, with your staff in particular, what's been helpful for you in recruiting? Because again, there's a ton of talent, obviously all over the place, but there's a lot of talent in Michigan. And how do you kind of break down what you're looking for, particularly? In year one as a coach, because we know that those things are different as you get in the conference and kind of figure out where things are and how things go. How do you kind of determine your recruiting process when it comes to a college prospect at the high school level?
Yeah, that's a great question, Coach. I'll be quite honest. I don't think year one versus year three, outside of, maybe the ability to attract higher level of talent, depending on how your program is doing, changes much in terms of who and what we're looking for. And we look at the how. So I mentioned that word quite a few times before. The how, the approach matters, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So I'm going to start with what matters most to me, which I hope hits with some of the high school student athletes listening. But I watch how you run to your coach when they're, trying to tell you something. I watch how you come onto the bench. I watch, if you're on the bench, how you greet your teammates. And I'll tell you what, I was won over by one very talented regional player,
Yeah.
because when she was on that bench, and she's a really nice, talented player, but when she was on that bench, the first thing I noticed about her, the first time I watched her live, was she was the first person to greet her teammates. And that said so much to me about her character and how she's wired. And I feel like at the end of the day, our job is to develop. So you do have to have a certain level of talent, right?
Yep.
To compete at
Absolutely.
whatever level you're being recruited at. And our job is to develop. But I'll be honest, the things that we won't sacrifice are character. And the other piece is you have to love the game. I mean, to come here, this is a huge commitment. If you do not love basketball and it does not show when you compete, I'm probably not recruiting you.
I'm going to interject, Coach. I
Yeah.
1,000% think that that's something that a lot of kids don't understand at multiple levels, because obviously at the Division I level, not as obvious as maybe as it should be, but you have to love it, because this is where you're going to spend 95% of your time is something doing basketball related, whether profession, whatever, but it's a job, and you have to love the job in order to do it well. But then, even at the other levels, Division II, NEIAs, like we have a lot of expectations when we offer you an opportunity to play, at the levels that you're playing at, because one, you give a kid a lot of money and give an opportunity to get their degree, but it's really about loving the game to be successful. And I think it's really more of a life lesson. You're going to get out of life, what you put into it. And if you're not in the habit of putting a lot into anything, you're probably not going to go get a whole lot out of anything. I love that. And it's kind of a segue a little bit into the question that we were going to ask anyway. So how big is that learning curve for freshmen, even transfers, when they first come in, to understand, like, this is not high school, right? You could have been the best player sometimes naturally, or maybe you thought you worked really, really hard in high school. How big or how small is that learning curve sometimes for players when they get to the next level?
Yeah, I think you're right. There is a learning curve. No matter how prepared you think you are, you don't know what you don't know. And at that next level, there's so much that you can't possibly be prepared for, because you haven't experienced the physicality, you haven't experienced the pace, you haven't experienced the intensity, you haven't experienced necessarily the depth of what we're doing. You know what I mean? In terms of the intricacies of actions, and whether you're a coach that runs a ton of plays, or you're a coach that creates a system where your players have to read, that's still a lot of learning. That's a huge learning curve. So I think learning curve is the perfect word. I think for us, our staff's philosophy is we use like 2 E's: educate and empower. So we are not going to get mad or lose our minds when young women are learning. Like that's, you said it, it's a curve. Eventually they hit it where they get it and they're great. But whether it's basketball or even our standard, we're patient in that. And the first approach we have is, how do we educate this young person to learn how we do it? Because we believe in how we do things. And generally when we educate, they're with it. They want to be here. They want to do well for themselves. They want to do well for you all and for their teammates. So after you have that education, now let's see the shift, and let's see how they elevate. But what that education does is it empowers them. Instead of going at them and getting upset because they don't get it yet, it's like, let me educate. Let me see if we can guide them, because you said it best, Coach Willis, we're teachers. Me just expecting her to get it, because that's what we do. That's some coaches operate like that, but we don't. Our job is, how do we get them there? Instead of demanding that they get there when they've never been in this environment before in their entire lives, how do we help connect those dots? And through education, and then we empower them a little bit. And so we'll create just different ways where we kind of wean them off until it's like the training wheels on a bike. It's like we have the training wheels, and then we take those training wheels off, and then they're good, and they're biking and they're all good. So but to answer your question, I think yes, it doesn't matter who you are, it's going to be a learning curve.
And Coach, kind of piggybacking and maybe expanding on that a little bit. So in the game today, like, I don't know, this is kind of opening up another, area, but like for kids that want to play college Division I basketball at Eastern Michigan University, like, what are some of those training wheels that you'd like to see them, as far as like their values, their characteristics, like what they're emphasizing in their training and the work and skill set? Like what do you want to see them really kind of focus on, so they're ready to need a little bit less of a training wheel experience, like when they get on campus?
There is no substitute for a high school player that understands what a high motor looks like. Like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, is that high
Finger
motor.
snaps, Coach. Finger snaps. That's you can say that twice.
High motor.
Amen.
The high motor is invaluable, because if they can operate at a high motor in high school, that's going to help with their transition with the pace of the game. And then I feel like it's easier to like rein back than it is to push forward. So we'll take aggressive high motor and try to slow that game down for them, versus someone that you're trying to push constantly. any day, every day. But I would say the first thing that comes to mind is high motor. I think the second thing that comes to mind, and this is, I don't want to be so obvious, but knowing how to be a great teammate, because you have to be a great teammate at this level. We don't have time for jerks. And I personally, you said Eastern Michigan, I won't tolerate it. And that's something we talk about. The non-negotiables are work hard and be a great teammate. So that motor kind of goes with the work hard, right? And the be a great teammate, that's a non-negotiable. And I feel like most colleges and universities, that's a non-negotiable because we just don't have time or the energy to deal with people who don't understand what being a good teammate is.
It's a great question and a great answer. I mean, it's something, again, that could be sometimes part of the learning curve, but with all the great programs that are in Michigan and the state surrounding Michigan, I think that there are some programs doing a really, really good job of teaching those players at a young age how to be those great teammates. We've seen, some of the best teams in the country. Honestly, I mean, there's a program out of Ohio who they have some of the most talented players I've seen in a long time on that team this year. But the way that they played together was, and not just that they threw the ball to this girl. I mean, they genuinely enjoyed seeing somebody be successful, even if it wasn't them in that moment. That's a hard team to coach against. It's a fun team to watch as long as you're not the one playing against them. Those are the most fun teams to recruit to because you don't know. I mean, we tell our girls all the time in our program, you don't know what your role is going to end up being in college. Sometimes in high school, you do get the luxury of getting all the shots, but you might get to college. And the wake-up call for our girls is, yeah, develop a skill in case it's needed. But you got to learn how to do something besides shoot the ball because when you get to college, the wake-up call I give our girls is, hey, like I bring our varsity team, we averaged somewhere around 80 points a game last year. That means, yeah, we might need some new scoring this year, but it might not necessarily be you. What else can you do? Can you guard? Can you sit in the stands? Is your communication great? Are you going to throw a fit if this isn't the best game you have and somebody else is ready to play and we play that? Like those things matter. Those intangibles are huge for culture in a program too. And we tend to find that when I found it in my baby years of experience here coaching is when we watch those programs that are successful, that is one of the intangibles that they have. Their teams are full of girls who only care about the team, and then care about themselves after the umbrella of the team. Like, my first thing is I'm gonna be a good teammate. I'm not worried about what that looks like for someone else on the outside. It's on the inside. I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for our team to be successful.
Coach Willis, do you mind if I add to what you
go for it? Go for it.
I can't stress enough to whoever's listening how obvious it is to college coaches when you've got it going as a teammate. And I think I know the program you're referring to because they're extremely obvious in their culture and they're so strong in their culture and it's a complete hats off to them. But you better believe that court is packed. Yes, there's a ton of talent on that team, but it is packed 5 rows deep and then some because there's talent and the culture is there. And those colleges know that if they can get one of those players to join their program, that learning curve in terms of great teammate, that's a lot flatter of a learning curve because those women get it. And so exactly what you're saying, the importance of showing that and exuding that on your AAU team, on your high school team, it's so, so important because it's so obvious. It is so obvious. And I don't think enough of us realize how visible it is.
Yeah, sometimes if you can just get one of those players, I mean, because your team starts to become a player-led team, which we all believe is a lot easier to deal with than a coach-led team. If your players have the culture and accountability that it's about us, not about you or not about me, then that means coaching becomes a whole different type of ball game when you have those type of teams. Larry Brown was famous for talking about that. The funnest teams are the coach are the ones that if you walk out of a practice for 5 minutes, you don't have to worry about coming back in. Girls are screwing around or whatever. I mean, those teams are very exciting to coach and to watch. A lot more fun to watch. Well, I got a couple more questions and then we'll get into our mailbag. So we saw Canisius have a huge jump. And I'm going to talk about offense a little bit because everyone likes that. We saw them have a huge jump. When you were there, you all jumped from ninth out of 11 teams to fourth in just 3 seasons in your offensive. I mean, I can't emphasize how big of a jump that is to be at the bottom third of the conference and putting the ball in the basket to finding a way to find yourself in the top four, top five, putting the ball in, like being hard to stop. Some of that style of play, some of it, like you said, find the right players, some of those girls coming into their own. But is there a style that's in particular that you think would be that's helpful with offense and scoring, or is it a combination of some defensive things that you're looking forward to playing now that you're in the small the MAC, not the MAAC?
Absolutely. I'm going with what I believe in, and what I believe in is what we did at Canisius. And I'm going to throw out a bunch of like hot words that everybody's using now, and then I'll try to go a little deeper. But fast, fluid, free.
Okay.
And then we want clear and confident. So the way our offense works, we talked about early aggressiveness a lot, and we will continue to talk about that. So we break down our offense in terms of first five, which stands for the first 5 seconds of the shot clock, second eights, which is the next set of 8 seconds. And then you've got, what is that? 13 seconds left that you're messing with, 10 to 13. So our first 5 and our second 8, we would give it 13 to 15 seconds. Okay. But I did number crunching. And what I learned was we were our best, and we shot the ball at an insanely high rate, or finished at an insanely high rate, when we were scoring the first 15 seconds of the shot clock. And so early aggression worked. And so we're going to recruit women who want to play fast. And that's not just in the full court. So if teams effectively take away our fast break, our first 5, and we flow into our second 8, and they've defended that well, it's like, okay, we teach our team what's next. And now we're either getting into a continuity or some sort of an ISO with our last 10 seconds. And even that half court has to be at pace. And so when we say fast, fluid, free, I'm not just referring to kicking the ball up in full court. I'm referring to, we have to play at pace in the half court. Ball moves, you move, be intentional about your dribbles. Like we've been working with our guards here, and coach you is our point guards coach. And I'm like, just whistle it dead. So you get 3 dribbles to go somewhere. If it's going to take you more than 3 dribbles, you're stalling the offense and you're easy to defend. So if we're
See, now
another one.
you take it. I'm a
This is where we
basketball
talk all
church
day.
here, man. This is basketball because I don't think a lot of, and it's not to knock some of the training stuff that you do, but I don't think a lot of young basketball players really understand how few players, how special you have to be as a basketball player to be dribbling 5 and 6 times before you shoot. Like, there's not a ton of Caitlin Clarks in the world, and I don't think a lot of this is basketball heaven for me. I'm sorry, I've been preaching this all summer. And to hear it live on the pod, super excited. I'm sorry. Go ahead, coach.
No, well, I think it's knowing time and place, right? So like, and that's our job as coaches. It's like, how do we teach our team the value of pace? And then maybe ATO, maybe, or on a sideline, right? We have identified a mismatch, or we want to create an ISO. That's like, to me, that's the fun time. Okay, I got you. Like I have a post player who was at my previous school, who's at this school now, Cece, and she is hysterical. She will, if we don't have pace, she'll look at me and be like, look who I got on me. And I'm like, I got you. So, but it's getting those talented players to understand we can't do it every time. We can't, because everybody's loaded up. As soon as you put that ball on the floor, you're going to get trapped. It's going to be a turnover, and then it's going to be a layup. But we can absolutely find moments where you're in a great spot on the floor, and it's a wonderful ISO opportunity. Let's go from 6 dribbles to 5. Like, let's find ways to be slightly more efficient, a little quicker. But I agree with you, Coach. But I do think there are time and place where if you've got a player who can go, and
Yep. Let them
you
go.
know, she can break them down. That's
Mhm.
great, but it's not all the time, and it's getting them to understand that.
Great.
Mhm.
You
All right.
talked about CC. Evan, sorry, you got something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great that you hit on that. And I know Coach T is also excited, but just that's something we see today, like just way too much dribbling, way too much ISO ball at the high school level, at the travel level. It's like, let's push the ball, let's get a good shot. It's easier to defend, like you said, coach, somebody who's just dribbling and, gap defense trapping. So the kids that really stand out to me, like when I'm scouting, at a game or at a tournament, is the ones that understand and recognize like the right shot, the right pass, moving the defense pace, moving without the ball. Which are a lot of other things we could talk about of as far as skills that would be helpful for recruits to become more proficient in playing off the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, pace and space. Those are that's all we teach in the summer. So you just said it, off the ball. Everybody knows what to do when they have the ball, or they think they know what they know what to do, but it's, what do you do when you're off the ball? Like, I've seen players drive and then their teammates congest the lane because they want to come towards the ball. And it's like, no, 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 get away from the ball. So we talk about keeping 15. We're not a set heavy team. We don't want to be a set heavy team. I want to teach our women the game and to teach them how to play when they have the ball, reads on a closeout. But then I also want to teach them how to space off the ball, because when you space off that ball and we've got a guard that can get downhill, your defender has to make a decision. Does she commit to the ball? If she commits to the ball, everyone on our team can shoot the three ball. You're getting an easy spot three because you went away from the ball. And so I think sometimes it's so hard for us to process, going away from the ball means I'll get the ball, but it does. If you run a 4-out 1-in system, or anything where you've got perimeter spacing, um, spacing off and away is the best thing for you to actually catch the ball where you can score.
That's excellent coaching tip, and something that we're seeing, with some of the read and react offense, circle movement, like some of that stuff is becoming a lot more popular, particularly in the girls sport, because like you said, it's just the opportunities that are created with spacing and basketball is being understood a little bit better. When we grew up, it was more 3-out 2-in, dump the ball down or to the post or come set a screen or whatever. And not that those things can't work with certain style of players, but the stats and the analytics, all the analytic guys out there, girls out there are starting to see that, hey man, space creates a lot of opportunity for a lot of players. So that's exciting. Is there any? We know you had 5 players come over with you from Canisius, and I think that says a lot about your coaching staff and the confidence they have. Are there any players, incoming freshmen, returning players that state of Michigan should just be excited about that are at Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, coach, I'm going to say all of them. I think all of our returners are really believed into what we're doing, and they're believed into, like, that was my first ask when I came on April 1. I told them, because that's a hard situation to be in,
Oh yeah,
and I said, I'm not asking you to trust me right now, because you've met me for a whole 5 minutes. We had a phone call previously. That's hard. That's a hard ask.
yeah.
I said, but I am going to ask you to just trust my intentions, that I have the best for this program in mind, and I will always operate from that place. And then I just asked them to be open. And every single one of them looked me dead in the eye and were with it. And we've been able over the course of the last few months to build good one-on-one relationships with them. And I'm really excited about all of our returners. And I'm excited for everyone to watch them in our system, because that fast, fluid, free, I think they're having a lot of fun with it. Like, I'll add the last, F is the fun. Like, I think they're having a lot more fun. And I think shots are going in a lot more. They're not second guessing. We're big on confidence and feel. And I think we've done a good job pumping them up. Still holding them to a standard, but pumping them up and having them feel good when they walk on that court. When you feel good, Happen. When you feel tight, everything mechanically, that ball goes as you go and you physically go as this is, so if your mind's not right, and you don't feel good, body's not going to react well, ball's not going to go in. So we're trying to create good feels. And I think they're bought into that. We do have some new faces outside of the transfers, some really talented freshmen, coming back from injury, but highly recruited. One being from Ohio. The entire conference wanted this girl, and she's going to be great for us. She just moved in yesterday, and she's coming back from an ACL, but she'll be ready to go come season time, and she's making great progress. So I'm really excited about her. But yeah, everybody, even outside of the 5 transfers from Canisius, we're excited about. Last person I'll mention, I don't want to leave her out, is Jada Williams. She transferred from St. Peter's, originally from Temple, coached against her in the AA MAC. And she was an all-conference player as a sophomore, and that was her first year playing basketball. Her freshman year, she sat out, but she is a force in the paint. And so her and Cece and Brooklyn Thrash and some of the other post players, they're going to be tremendous compliments to each other. I'm excited to see it.
Nice. That's exciting. We're gonna cover a couple more things and let you go, so I don't kill your time. I mean, I could do this all day. This is my cup of tea here. But we're gonna jump and do our segment with Friends of the Pod, and I'll let Evan take over during that session just to ask some questions that were sent in for us, but we're gonna have you answer today since you're the guest and you get to offer your perspective. They'll get to listen to us all the rest of the year. And then we'll talk a little bit about some things that you have upcoming at Eastern that we think the rest of the state of Michigan should know about. Evan?
Yeah, so Coach, we have our mailbag segment, which is called Friends of the Pod, where, our listeners and viewers, they send in questions for us to share. And these are directed, for you specifically. So our first question is just, how does a college coach feel about a showcase? An actual showcase, format event?
I think any good coach can identify talent, whether it's an AAU tournament or a showcase. So I'm not against showcases at all. I think showcases are hard for the participants because I think when you go into a showcase, you don't know the people you're playing with. And so the offense is a little stagnant, tough. And so sometimes, like, my frustration as a coach who's trying to evaluate when I watch showcases is sometimes, we talked about movement off the ball. You'll have a girl who has a driving opportunity in this showcase, and this one girl's cutting through because that's what she does in high school. And then that girl runs right into her own teammate, and that player might be great, but that was an awful moment or a snapshot. And it wasn't her necessarily. It was just the toughness of those two never playing together. So I think it's harder to evaluate talent at an individual showcase unless you already know that player. But I'm not against it, not at all. I think it's also hard for big girls. I think post players, listen, I was high school, I'm post. I can't dribble. I'm on that block. I was told not to dribble. Like, I was that kid. Showcases were the bane of my existence because I touched that ball in the whole day maybe twice, and I was 1 for 2, And so for a post player, especially if you're a true post player, it's tough because you've got 3 guards who want to play point guard because, that means you touch the ball first. And then, whether you get that ball or not in the 5 minutes that you play, and then everybody's trying to play. So the coaches, bring them in and out. I think it's just tough, but not against it. And I think if it's an opportunity for you to highlight yourself and you believe that, I think you should do it.
I think
Great answer.
Yeah, those are some great points, Coach. And I'm gonna, ditto there with it's hard depending on if you're the type of player that is going to get the ball touches, or what opportunities you do get and those reads that, if I'm evaluating a kid at a showcase, it's hard for me to know as a coach, like, did you make that decision because you were taught that read at the high school level, like on a drive, I cut through, on I do a baseline cut or basket cut, or was that the decision you made because, you're ball begging or what's going on? So those are some good points, and some kids just don't lend themselves well probably to the showcase format. But so our next question. So what's the number one area of emphasis for a high school basketball player before college? Like, you can choose one thing, like what should I be prioritizing, as a high school player right before I step on Eastern Michigan's campus?
How you approach your work. I think knowing how to work is a thing. Like we talked about that learning curve. I think knowing how to work is a thing. Because when you go to that next level, everything's going to elevate. We talked about the tempo, the pace, the intensity. Start now. You cannot control the pace of your high school practice, nor should you try. That is your coach's job. But how can you, within a practice, maybe it's not even a fast-paced practice, or you don't view it as a fast-paced practice or an intense or competitive practice, don't make excuses. Find ways. So how can you, as the best player on that high school team, compete with yourself? Like you're winning every sprint. Defensive shell, you're a maniac when you talk. Like your closeouts, those hands are so high. You're doing everything, and your approach to how you do your work is just next level. And you have full control over that, regardless of the type of practice. Oh, well, it was just walk through. Well, make coach yell at you for going so fast. Like, hey, slow down. Let's just walk through. Okay. Well, I'm going to walk the best. I'm going to yell shot every time, even if it is a walkthrough shot. Because in college, guess what? I have our girls yell shot. So get those habits. But approach to work would be my answer to that.
Yeah, I won't add to it too much. Just one thing, sometimes as a player, when you get good, sometimes you start acting like it. Like you gotta stop. You have to erase the idea of I want to be cool, or I'm trying to, like, if that goes out the window the moment you step foot in the door, and it doesn't ever come back. You're never so good that you can just be cool. Don't care if you're first team because even if you are, we got an All-American at our level here. You're supposed to set the tone for how the incoming freshman can become an All-American, right? But if you come in and you're kind of cool, and you're the person we're telling is best player in our program, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if they're watching you do some things one way, and then you're doing the other things another way, that's what they're going to think is going to get them to the level that you got to. And that's usually not the case. You got to do those little details. So don't be cool. Get the coolness out of your game. Work hard. All right. Be the opposite of whatever cool is.
Yeah. Cool. That's a great point, Coach T. And and part of it is redefining cool, right? It's cool to love the work. It's cool to be obnoxious with your communication and how seriously, like, you take everything, and how passionate you are about, like Coach Sahar was saying, with the walkthroughs and, whatever weight training, or, getting your however many shots up you're getting in on your own time, like everything. Like, be cool by setting that high standard for sure.
Yep.
All right. So then next question. So I'm an incoming freshman in high school. So an eighth grader going into their freshman year. So our 28 class. And, just starting my recruiting process. Does it matter if I play on varsity right away?
No, not at all.
Simplest answer.
No.
Right.
Okay. So
I don't have much more beyond that. No, it doesn't, because you have so much opportunity for growth. And if you're committed to that, you'll find a way to improve where you are catching eyes your sophomore year. That's just it. And then there are other opportunities in terms of club basketball as well. If you feel like you want exposure in terms of college eyes on you, then club basketball is an option. But even if you're just playing high school, the answer is no. Get better, make varsity, or reach out to coaches and be like, look, come check me out, or send film. You know what I mean? The one thing I will recommend, do not mass email. I don't open them. So, because we get so many, and this is me being honest and me trying to help everybody. We get so many emails from people, whether it be services or family members or the players themselves. If you just have greetings or you have the wrong school, even, I'm deleting the email. And I don't want to miss out on you. So put in the time, because that tells me you care. Put in the time to address myself or our staff or Eastern. And just in that greeting, make sure it's not generic.
So, Coach, you kind of opened up a can of worms for me here. But let's get this off the table right now. So, like kids that literally you mentioned the travel circuit. So I see this all the time, like that just at every school and their mother, that they want to come watch their game. Like, how do you feel as a college coach, like recruits and parents and whoever that are just adding like a bunch of schools or even you just generically like on their Twitter?
Before you answer that, I'm gonna tell you right now, because most of us are on the same page, regardless of the level that you're at. It's not a terrible thing, but it's not something we like seeing. All right. If you're interested in Spring Arbor and you get the tagging Spring Arbor and Grand Valley and Eastern and Michigan and like 15 schools tagged in your Twitter posts,
Yeah.
Not a terrible thing, but it's not the most attractive thing for me to see as a coach. It doesn't mean it's the worst thing in the world, but just like you want us to recruit you, we also want you to recruit us. And it's just like having someone you're dating, right? If you're talking to six of us at the same time, I just don't feel very special, right? It doesn't mean that other people won't try to recruit you. I mean, if you're a catch, people are going to try to go get you, but you have to make it personal. It's not something that for me speaking as a coach and just knowing our staff specifically, we talk about those things. We're like, well, I don't really know if she's interested in us because there's about 6 other schools that she's interested in reaching out to. And this kid we know like Spring Arbor. She enjoys Spring Arbor, and she's not flirting with all the other schools, so to speak. And if she is, we don't know about it, so it makes it a little bit easier for us. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I second everything you said, Coach Willis. I think that's the answer. It's reversed, right? It's still two parties involved in the recruitment. And if we're one of 10, we don't feel very special. Exactly what Coach was saying. So I second everything you just said.
Yeah. All right, that was a fun one. Sorry, we got on a tangent there, but that was really important, I think, for our kids, parents, everyone, travel coaches, high school coaches, helpful for everyone to hear. So, segmenting into, so this is a parent question.
Let's do one more.
Oh yeah, this is the last one. So, so do you as a college coach recruit more? You kind of alluded to this a little bit, but do you as a college coach recruit more from the AAU travel circuit or high school season and games?
That's a tough one. And I'll say probably definitely I would say travel circuit. But I also see so much value in high school. I would say we get names and we create lists based off of our communications with a lot of club coaches, and the exposure of that spring recruiting and that July recruiting, because I mean, we get to see so many teams and so many prospects, and that's the opportunity, and that's where the bulk of that recruiting happens, and collecting names and starting those relationships. But I see so much value in continuing to recruit throughout high school seasons, because sometimes you have players who look great with their travel team and they fit that system. And then you watch them with the high school team, and the high school team is more of what you do. And you're like, ooh, okay, this is going to make me want to delve deeper. Because I thought talent wise, she's there, but actually she really struggles with ball screens. And we set ball screens, and we're going to have to talk about that, or vice versa. Maybe, the high school system she doesn't really shine in, I don't rule kids out with that. It's like, let me watch them in a different setting, in a different environment with a different coach. I think all that matters so much because I'm going to go back to feel. System matters, but the people around you matter too. If you mesh with your teammates in AAU better versus high school, or the other way around, or you connect better with your coaches, you play better. And so I think seeing those student athletes in both settings really matters. But I would say the bulk of recruiting happens with the travel.
Nice. I would agree. It's two different worlds, really. I mean, sometimes there's more talent overall, depending on what circuit you're playing in or who you're playing that weekend in the AAU circuit. But then sometimes in high school, it does get a chance for us to see you more brightly, your strengths, your weaknesses. If you are a really good teammate because the team's really good, if you're a really good teammate because that's who you are as a person, those things show up in different settings at different times. For different players are different. So there's benefit definitely to both. The talent pool for sure is a lot. You run into like superstar, basically all-star teams all during the AAU circuit. So sometimes you can kind of find out where you're at athletically or even overall skill-wise. But again, the translation of it, there's a huge benefit to seeing what you do in your school system as well. So that's a great question. Coach, we're going to let you go here in a moment. But before we do, you can let our listeners and followers know what's happening at EMU. I know you've got a coaches huddle coming up here. What things can we look forward to here in the future? And then maybe where can they follow you or maybe have more interaction with you now that we have you in Michigan full time?
Yeah, no, thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of share about how we can connect with Michigan, because that's exactly what we want to do. We want to know our backyard. We want to know this state like the back of our hand. We want to build great relationships with all the AAU clubs out there, with the high schools out there, and with the talented young women and their families. We are a program built on relationships. And we value people first, foremost, and always. And so for us, this is the fun stuff. The fact that I got to meet you today, Coach Evan, this has been great, and I'm excited about just having this new connection. But that's the fun part about coaching, is just being able to build, connections with the community and with this state. You're absolutely right. We have a coaches huddle next Wednesday. If there are any coaches tuned in who want to come to the huddle. Okay. Yes, there we go.
Okay, let's go.
I will, I'm going to say my email. You can reach out to me. It's SNUSSEIB@emich.edu. So if you want to attend the huddle, or you want more information, please email me. The sooner the better, and we'll get you on that list. We would love to have you. But we're doing that next Wednesday from, I believe, 5:30 to 9 p.m. So in the evening. In terms of other events we're hosting, we're an open book, and our doors are always open. So we're not the program that has open practice twice a year, and that's when you can come check us out. Anytime you want to come watch workouts, whether you're a coach, whether you're a prospect, whether you're a high school team, it does not matter. Our doors are always open. So again, just send an email to me, and I'll put you in contact with the right staff member, and we'll get you out here. Let us know who's coming so we can treat you right and be good hosts. But doors are always open here. And that's the biggest thing I want to get across to any listener. We're about people and building relationships. That's what we believe sustains success. And that's the fun, is just getting to know and connect with other people. So anytime you want to come through to IPSI or Eastern or the George Gervin Center, you have an open invitation to whoever's listening.
Fantastic. And Evan and I will get that link as well, or the email address in the bio when we release it on YouTube here in a couple hours or a few hours or days, whatever we're going to do here. But we're looking forward to it. We're super excited, super excited for the opportunity. We know that a lot of our coaches in our program are going to be there that night to talk with you and your staff and see the other coaches in the state. that want to come get better. I mean, that's the same thing we tell our girls. Getting better is not just something that you have to do as a player. I mean, for me as a coach, I'm always trying to find a way to learn and grow. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity coming in.
Well, we're excited to have you, Coach, and Coach Evan. Hopefully, we can add you to that list too.
Oh, I'll be there. Whatever's in the way, like, is off my books now. So let's go. Not missing that.
Well, and thank you, gentlemen, so much for having me. Like I said, it's an honor, and I really appreciate the good work you're doing for girls basketball in Michigan. This is an awesome platform, and I'm excited for the following you guys are going to build here.
We're looking forward to it. We'll wrap it up today's session. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, this is Michigan Girls Hoops podcast brought to you by Prepare to Win Basketball. Thank you for listening in. Any of our listeners, subscribers, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitter. Those links are in the bios of each one of those platforms. If you have any questions, again, please shoot email over to mghpodcasting@gmail.com. We hope you've enjoyed today's interview. We certainly have. I plan to get off here and watch it again so I can learn. And then the next episode that we'll be releasing within a few days or so. We plan to do some discussion on some of the high school teams and AAU programs in Michigan and do a little bit of a ranking for where we see how the girls basketball season might end up going overall. So some of the top teams in Michigan, we're going to kind of talk about those teams and coaches a little bit. So me and Evan, depending on how it goes, we'll probably make that a little controversial just because we see things a little differently sometimes. And it makes for good conversation, but we're looking forward to it. We think it's a fun conversation to have. So you don't want to miss out on that. Again, from Coach Evan Bell and I hope you have a great rest of your day.